your head and feel, I'm so content, like you feel good about yourself. And this is when Maharaj reminds you, Rakh Garibi ways, that then keep that look of humility, adorn yourself with humility. So it's so beautiful how Guru Sahib is taking us on a journey and they're telling us that what we need to do is take on these gun, but we need that understanding that we don't have the ability to take them on. We can only get them if we're blessed with them. And then they're saying once you're blessed with these Shubh gun, with these really beautiful virtues, let's not get that hankar, that mere aap gun hai, because they're not ours, they've been blessed to us. Then they say Rakh Garibi ways. And then in the same Shabad, Maharaj Guru Nanak Dev Ji, they go on to say, Baba Maya Saath na hoye. They're telling their dad that you want me to do farming, you want me to earn an income, but Maya Saath na hoye. And it's so beautiful because it's such a personal conversation. They say Baba because they're speaking to their father. It just puts it into perspective for us because we have parents that we converse with. So here you can feel Maharaj actually speaking to their dad and giving this sikhya, ki Baba Maya Saath na hoye, that this Maya, this money that you want me to collect, and on a larger scale, this illusion, it doesn't go with us. Maya Saath na hoye. In Maya jag mohya, virla bujya hoye. Moha is really beautiful because it means to be enticed, to be stuck in something. So this Maya, it's put us in its grasp. Virla bujya hoye. Virla means that tama, that one, when we say gursik, the one who followed the gurmat, gurmukh, it's those virle, those very few select ones. Virla bujya hoye, that it's only those select few who actually understand this. Because in a different Bhakti, Maharaj talks about how Maya has eaten up this whole world without any teeth. Vinadanta Jaghaya, like without any teeth, it still managed to eat us. That's how enticing Maya is. But the most important sikhya to focus on is when they say that Maya Saath na hoye, that it's not going to go with us. Because previously we said this and sabechar, that if everything can be reduced to ash, how will it go with us? And this brings us on to another Sakhi of Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, when they met a Raja Duni Chand. And this Raja, he collected a lot of wealth, and for all the wealth that he collected in his Raj while he was the king, he put up a gold flag outside of his house every time he collected 10 million rupees. So whenever he gained 10 million rupees, he put a gold flag outside of his house. And now he was on his 7th flag, which means he had 70 million rupees with him. And he invited Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj to his palace, to his house, in order to see these 7 flags. He said, Maharaj, will you come to my house and we'll have a dinner together? I'll give you all these beautiful types of foods. Come and see my house. And when Maharaj goes there, the first question they asked was, what are these flags? You've got 7 gold flags outside of your palace. What do they signify? What do they mean? And this is exactly what the Raja wanted. They invited Maharaj over so Maharaj could ask that question. And then they go on to explain to Maharaj that for every 10 million rupees that I collect, I put up 1 flag, and now I'm on 70 million. But I still want more. They said, even though I have 7 flags, I still want more. And then Maharaj just laughed at them, and Maharaj gave them a little needle. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj pulled out a little needle, and they passed it on to Raja Duni Chand. And they said, hold this needle and give it to me in your next life. When you're born again, I will come and see you, and I want you to give me this needle. And Duni Chand was like, Maharaj, that makes no sense. How can I give it to you in my next life? I can't take anything there. So the irony is that Maharaj made them say it from their own mouth. Because then Maharaj goes on to laugh, and they say, if you can't even give me this little needle, which usually can't be seen, you can just hold it. They go, then what are you doing with these 7 massive gold flags? Can you give me one of your gold flags in your next life? Do you have the ability to take the gold flag with you? Or what it signifies, that 70 million rupees, will it go with you? And then, as Maharaj gave the sikhya, they spoke about the Bhakti from Asa Divar, ke Kur Raja, Kur Paja, Kur Sab Sansar. Kur means false. They're saying false is the king. So the Raja, Duni Chand, Kur Parja, the subjects of the king. Pur sab sansar. Maharaj go on to say that everything in this world, sansar means world, that the whole world is false. So Guru Sahib gave this amazing sikhya, and they gave it through that encounter of the needle and the gold flags. They say, if you can't give me the needle, where are you going to take the flags? And it takes us back again to that same bhakti of this char, that everything we see gets reduced to ash. So then why do we then attach ourselves to it? And if we go back to the bhakti of Manhali Kirsani Karni, where Guru Sahib talks about these gun, then there's another bhakti in Basant Ki Var, the first bhakti of the Bani, Har ka naam te aayega, ho haraya bai. So Hari Akal Purkh Vaheguru Ji ka naam te aayega. When we sit and we focus on the name of Vaheguru, Har ka naam te aayega, ho haraya bai. That's how we blossom forth. But what does it mean for us to blossom? That harayavli, that green blossoming, what does it mean for us? How do we as humans blossom? We can only blossom when we take on virtues, these beautiful virtues of just khima. Khima means forgiveness. And Guru Sahib says, Jeh khima, teh aap. Because forgiveness, as much as it sounds simple, it's not easy. Forgiveness is one of the hardest things to do. When someone hurts us, the last thing we think of is forgiving that person. But Maharaj says, Jeh khima, where there's forgiveness, teh aap, there is you, that's where you reside. You being God, that oneness. So Maharaj is saying, when we forgive, we need to understand that that's the grace of God flowing through us. At that point, we're just a vessel, and working through us is God themselves. Jeh khima, teh aap. So forgiveness is one of the beautiful virtues as well. And that's how we blossom. Because when we meditate, Guru Sahib Aap, then they bless us with patience and tolerance, forgiveness and truth. They bless us with all these beautiful things. But we have to understand, in order to gain something, we must lose something. So if they're blessing us with tolerance and patience and forgiveness, that means they're taking away our anger. Because when you forgive, you can't be angry. The two of them don't go side by side. So every time Maharaj blesses us with a beautiful gun, they put something within us. They're also taking something away. And that's how we then fight those Panch Chor, Kavanabid Marane. How do we destroy them? When we get blessed with gun. And we only get blessed with them when we meditate. Because when we meditate, we understand that Jot Sarup, Mantu Jot Sarupaha. We're reminding ourselves, when we sit down and we meditate, all we're doing is reminding ourselves that Kitho Upja, Keh Raha, Keh Mahe Samava. Kitho Upja, where have you come from? Keh Raha, where and how are you staying right now? Keh Mahe Samava, where are we going to go after this? That's the whole point of meditation, of Gurbani, of our Nitnem. When we read Japji Sahib every day, it's not a ritual that we do it on a daily basis. It's because the more we read it on a daily basis, the more we learn, the more it gives us time to reflect on ourselves and ask these three most important questions. Like, where have I come from? Where and how am I living in this world? And where am I going after this? So that's the purpose of meditation, of bhakti, of our nitnem, of reading Gurbani. All that Guru Sahib does is point us back inside, take us back to those questions, especially the final one of Keh Mahe Samava. Samona is to merge. So Keh Mahe Samava, where are we going to merge in the end? So these are just important questions that Guru Sahib reminds us of. And that's why they put so much emphasis in the whole of Gurbani and Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. There's so much emphasis on Naam to actually sit down and meditate, because that's the only thing that takes us back inside. As I mentioned, our five senses take us outwards. The only thing that takes us back in is focusing upon that name, upon that mantra, because then you're recognizing that it's happening now. It's not happening tomorrow or the day after. It's happening the minute you do it. The minute you decide to sit down and say Vaheguru, that's when the magic happens. Because you're not saying I'll do it tomorrow. And that's when you realize that you're moving away from the darkness and into the light. So now I'm just going to share a quick conversation between Bhagat Namdev Ji and Bhagat Trilochan Ji. So there are two Bhagats, and both of their Bani is in Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. So we give them a really high status because Guru Sahib themselves allowed them to have their Bani in Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj for us to read, which means that it's got a lot of important teachings. So the reason I'm going to share this Sakhi is that so we understand how to implement these things on a daily basis. Because it's easy for me to sit here and talk about all of this, but it's so much harder for me to physically implement it into my life. So through these Sakhya and these Shabads that Guru Sahib shares, they teach us how to actually do these things practically on a daily basis. So as I mentioned, this was a conversation between the two Bhagats. And Bhagat Namdev Ji was working. They were doing their Kirtikamai, like we all do. We all have jobs. The same way Bhagat Namdev Ji was also doing their job. And Bhagat Trilochan Ji came up to them and said, now you're doing your job, you're working, but you're so involved in your Kirtikamai, you've forgotten about God. And that's typically what we think, that when you're so focused in your studies, your education, your job, your work, that we forget God. But it's just a misconception because we can't forget what's within us. We can't ever be separated from it even when we're busy. And here it's a beautiful Shabad where they say, Nama Maya Mohya Kahat Lochan Need. So Bhagat Trilochan Ji has come to Bhagat Namdev Ji and they're saying this Maya, the illusion that we've been speaking about, Maya Mohya, that Maya has enticed you. They're accusing them and saying that Maya has got to you. That you're living a normal householder's life now because you're doing Kirtikamai. But they don't realize in this moment that Guru Nanak Dev Ji was the one who gave us that Updesh of Kirtikamana, that we should do that Kamai. It is part of that grace of Jivan. And then they go on to say that you're doing your job and you're not focusing your consciousness on Guru Sahib, on Vaheguru. You're not meditating anymore. And then the last two pankti are really beautiful because it says, Nama Kahate Lochana, Mukte Ram Samad. So now Bhagat Namdev Ji is telling Bhagat Trilochan Ji that yes, you can see me doing my physical job, but Mukte Ram Samad, on my mouth is still the word of God. That with my mouth I'm still remembering God. Haath pao kar kaam sab, jeet niranjan naal. Heart, your hands, bow, your feet. That with my hands and my feet, I'm doing my work, I'm doing my job. But Jeet, Niranjan Naal, my Chit, my consciousness, my awareness, my Surti Virti, that is focusing on God. So they share this beautiful Shabad to say that even when we're living our householders' lives and doing our jobs that we all have to go to in order to gain an income, let our consciousness still be with that one. Let us still have that understanding that we are all a part of that oneness. When Maharaj says Ek Oankar, which is the very beginning of Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, they say Ek, that one that's within us and outside. Oankar, it's that one who created the Oang, the Akar, the whole world, all of creation, Jarasi Lakajun, all the galaxies, all these like Akas, Patal. There's so much more that meets the eye. We don't even know what's underwater. Forget about what's in the skies. So then they say that let's have this awareness that we are part of that one and that there's so much more. So here Guru Sahib is not telling us that it's wrong to have a job because they encourage it. It is important that we live within this Maya, within this world, and we fulfill all our duties. But the most important thing to do is while doing all of these things, let's remember that we are just one. We all have that same energy vibrating within and without of us. We've all come from the same place. There is only one. And just to make this even more real, I'll give you a daily example that we can use to remind ourselves. So when we're making tea, we have the combination of milk and water. We probably have 3/4 of a cup of water and maybe just a couple of drops of milk. But when we fill it up with water and we add those 2 drops, all that water, that 3/4 cup, it takes the form of that milk. And it's very instant. The minute you spill the milk in the water changes color. Not realizing it's 3/4 a cup of water, so it's majority, and then 2 drops of milk. But still, it takes the form of that milk. And this is really beautiful because in Gurdwara, Maharaj says, Re mane, aisi harsyo preet kare, jaisi jad dud hoye. So Maharaj is saying, Re mane, oh my mind, aisi harsyo preet kare. That this is how you should love. Preet means love. This is how you should love God. The same way that that milk loves the water. The milk loves the water so much. The water also loves the milk so much that it sacrifices itself for the milk. In the sense that the water takes the form of the milk in just a second because of that love. So when we're making our cup of tea in the morning or the evening, we can just use that as such a beautiful reminder that we are just one with God. The same way that the water takes the form of the milk, we want to take the form of God. We want to take these Shobh Gurna, the ones that we knew our Guru had, of compassion, mercy, daya, santokh, khema, forgiveness. They never had any ill feelings, they never had any demerits. We can use things like a cup of tea to remember that. Things that we interact with on a daily basis. Milk and water, it's such a beautiful analogy. We can use the simplest of things to remind us that this is how we love our Guru. Because at the end of the day, we're just one. There is no difference between you and that oneness. It resides within us. So please forgive me for all my mistakes made. I know I have made many. And please bless me so that I can do this better in the future. And just to wrap up, because I know it could have been a lot of information, so just the last few words that I'll say is that if you don't remember all the complexities of the talk, let's just remember that we exist within Maya, and the only way to escape it is by using those 4 akhar, by saying Vaheguru. So if that means that it just maybe sitting down for 5 minutes a day, at any time, in the morning, in the evening, whenever you just get that minute, let's actively try and sit down and meditate. Let's try and focus our concentration on those 4 akhar, because it's not something we have to memorize, it's not something long or something hard. It just means sitting down and refreshing yourself, grounding yourself. And if you try and do that for even 5 minutes a day, it's going to take us a long way, because it's going to just remind us that we have the light of God within us. So that's all I'll say to end with, that let's try and do that on a daily basis, and let's try and build that connection with God. Let's actively try and feel the presence of God, because as humans we're made that way. We have the ability to physically feel God, and this is evident through our goosebumps. When we get goosebumps, it's not necessarily because of the cold, but it's that chill we feel when we're touched, when we're moved by something, our hairs stand. And Maharaj gives so much importance to Rom. They say, Gurmukh Rom, Rom Harte Ava, that each and every one hair on our body, Gurmukh Rom, Rom, with each and every pore, every hair, Harte Ava, we remember God. That proves that we as humans have the ability to experience and feel God right now. We don't have to wait for an afterlife. We don't have to wait to leave this body to find God, because He's not a man sat in the skies granting our wishes. He's right here, right now. So I'll just end with that let's just remember, even if it's just 5 minutes, let's try and implement it. Let's try and say Vaheguru once a day. Please forgive me. Lekha kahna chutiya, khina khina poolan haare, baksan haare baksala, nanak pare taare. Vaheguru ji ka khasa, Vaheguru ji ki